Okay, so what is youth voice? So this webinar is all about youth voice, and I wanted to do a bit of a quick overview of where it's all about, where it's come from. So Article 12 of the UN Convention of the Rights of the Child said, every child has the right to express their views, feelings and wishes in all matters affecting them, and to have their views considered and taken seriously. So youth voice is like a form of participation, and youth participation is quite a big word in the youth sector. But it can mean so many different things, and over the years it will be in sort of funding packages, or big charities will sort of talk about how they're engaging young people or supporting young people or supporting youth leadership, and all of this encompasses youth participation. So anyone under 17 or under, this Article 12 means that they have that right to express their view and opinion in any service that they use. So that could be your school, that could be mental health services, that could be something for young carers, that it could be Our Bright Future. Like, there's so many different things that you can give your opinion and give your view for those decisions to be made. So on the left hand side of the screen, there's like a little picture, and it's sort of a bit of a wordle that MYA produced to show all the different words out there, and to sort of help with the confusion of it, because there's so many different words around it. But youth voice, I guess, is the element of you giving your opinion and having that valued and being able to take action on it. Cool. So before we go forward, let's have a bit of a chat. We should really be thinking about how young people are valued in society right now, and if you think your opinions and your views, you can express them, one, you can express them, and two, that they're heard. So I've got two questions, well, I've got one question and then I guess two prompt questions. So what are society's assumptions of young people? Do we value young people in society, and do we care about young people's voices and opinions? And I'd like your own sort of personal experience on that, or maybe things you see in the media, and what are your viewpoints on that? Anyone like to add to those questions? Give me a wave or I feel like Dan might be typing. Maybe. I think you can unmute yourselves as well if you want to, but let me know if you can't.
I suppose, can you hear me?
Yes,
okay.
Perfect, Lawrence, thank you.
Okay, yeah, the unmute button's in the bottom left-hand corner, so you can mute and unmute yourself from that.
Oh, cool.
I think, what are society's assumptions of young people? Well, traditionally as learners, which is not without reason, because the younger you are, the less life experience you have. Nevertheless, that doesn't prevent young people from being well-informed and proactive.
Yeah, definitely. I think the media can have quite a negative view of young people at times. There can be stuff written about them, but at the same time, there can be positive stuff come out. That's cool. Oh no, you're not. Go for it, Lauren.
Thanks. I think there are lots of forums for young people to feedback on things, and I think that is seen more and more in organisations. But I think there's a bit of an assumption that young people are kind of inexperienced, or what their feedback isn't quite followed through, or is sort of followed through on what the organisation think they should do, rather than listening to the young people. And I think that comes back from the idea of not having experience, or not kind of understanding the situation and complexity.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that definitely happens. Anyone else? Oh, yeah.
What I was going to say was, I think sometimes you get the occasion when they include young people because they think they should. And then they're like, oh, we spoke to young people. There we go. We did our job. When actually they don't really take on board what you say, unless it's like fed through somebody else, which it's all right, but same point, it kind of needs to change, that it can be young people directly speaking to people instead of being like, you need to go and talk to this person, and they can word it in the correct way to make sure other people like your idea.
Yeah, so sort of like not just, I guess, youth participation in one area of the organisation, but maybe sort of across it and everyone valuing that youth voice rather than just that one person that needs to. Is that what you're sort of saying? Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, definitely. Would anyone else like to add anything? That doesn't help that I'm on mute, apologies. So Dan's put, young people are becoming more valued in society through more youth voice action, like projects like this. I think that youth voices and opinions are also becoming more valuable as there's much more of a broad feeling of the future and people specifically looking for youth opinions. Yeah, I think that's a great shout. I don't know if other people have seen, but The Guardian are asking young people to write in about their COVID-19 experiences. So if we've got any journalists or aspiring journalists out there or bloggers, then go for it. NYA are also collecting young people's voices as well as youth workers and organisations who are currently trying to work through the crisis and what their experiences are like as well. If I continue, I wanted to look at the journey of youth participation with you. Remember that youth voice is sort of like a part of youth participation. So this is what I use a lot with organisations when they're sort of figuring out how they want to engage with young people, but then also how they want to progress their journey. So they learn new skills or they become more confident in themselves, but also so that they can feed back their opinion in some way. And actually deliver potentially on those suggestions as well. So we have the first box, which is engage in recruitment. So this would be like a one-off session that, say, Yorkshire Beach Rangers might have of a beach clean, or say Green Academies might have of like an open day for young people at National Trust property, or Shropshire Wildlife, you guys might have a bug hunt. I don't know, sorry, I've made that up, but potentially, where it's like an open event as well, and you'd engage with those young people or those families that join, and you might do a bit of feedback thing at the end of like, did you enjoy it? What else would you like from us? What would you join more of? And in that sense, they're giving their opinion, and it's that chance to get that voice heard. But then if you're participating long term, sort of like you guys are, so you've been long term in your different projects, you might have like regular evaluations. So you might be filling in surveys every few months or at the start of your journey, at the end of your journey. You might be having chats with workers, just generally, just really casual chats about delivery. And you could even be working off your own suggestions. So instead of just answering the questions that people give you, you could be actually giving your own feedback. And supporting change. So another young person might be like, I really want to do this project, will you help me out? And you'll be like, yeah, I'll help you out. So that's sort of like a participation, but then we go into leader, so it's sort of leadership. So this might be where you actually take on your own role of delivering an event, a project, a talk, form of activism. I mean, there's so many different examples out there. But you basically do it yourself and you deliver it yourself, and that has come from your own idea, your own feedback on something that could be improved. So does that all make sense? Yeah. So 2 questions that I wanted to ask for a little bit of a discussion is, where would you place yourself on the above journey in your Our Bright Future project? And also, what opportunities have given you the chance to be able to voice your opinions and / or lead on something yourself? So quite big questions. Well, the second one's quite a big question. Who would like to go first?
I'd place
Lawrence.
myself, yeah, I'd probably place myself somewhere in the middle box when it comes to growing confidence, although through growing confidence, I've come to take on other roles within the Shropshire Wildlife Trust where I am a leader, but they're not directly related to the project.
Yeah, no, that's really good. That's really good. And if you can take those skills and use them elsewhere, then yeah, you've made yourself a leader in that So no, that's perfect. Anyone else? Jodie, I couldn't think of an example for you already.
I knew. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not a full like leader, like I've done like elements of it, but I mean, as Lawrence was saying, obviously I got involved in my project and then more in Our Bright Future, and then it was through Our Bright Future that I was able to speak at the Now for Nature conference and do that talk about like creative ways of communication and stuff. So it was definitely, I wouldn't have had that opportunity without being involved in the wider Our Bright Future project. But I've definitely been able to like lead on like local events and like the planning of that, like with a group of people. So like Your Shore Beach Rangers is the project, but we have loads of little local marine groups, and like I'm part of one of like them groups in Falmouth, and I do feel like I have I'm able to have like an active role in like planning what we're going to do and how we engage people. So yeah, I've definitely had some great opportunities.
Yeah, thank you. I was thinking of the a focus on that on nature talk that you did, because that's like a great example of being a leader and delivering something yourself. Catherine, I can think of a lot for you as well. Do you want to go for it? There you go.
So I would say I'm definitely in the middle. That fell, but like some aspects of leadership sometimes, especially on like voicing ideas, you kind of can do that. The biggest opportunity, which might sound a bit silly, is actually another young person, because it's actually, they're amazing at writing emails and just amazing at it, and I'm awful at it. So we kind of have this thing of, we have an idea, have a good chat, and then she writes email and it's perfect, and then she just CCs me into it. So I think in a very strange way, other young people kind of find me opportunities in order to develop skills and kind of move my ideas forward where they wouldn't be otherwise. But also Our Bright Future is an amazing opportunity as a whole.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, you pointed something out to me that I forgot to mention. So the arrows, which are going from sort of leader back to engage in recruitment and participation back to engage in recruitment, you sort of just described that there, Catherine, of young people like uplifting, but also supporting other young people. So the idea of like the leader, if you were to run an event for young people, then you're engaging more young people into that project. And then also uplifting them for them to provide feedback or for them to have a voice in that project. So no, that's great, thank you. Oh, Dan, you wrote something I saw. So Dan's put, myself and Lawrence and others have created our own youth group at Shropshire Wildlife Trust to engage with local young people in Shropshire. There's been lots of disruption with it, with staff changes, flooding, and now COVID-19, which has been a shame. In terms of opportunities, this project has been a great way to meet other people centred around nature and the environment, and with the youth group learning engagement skills and how to present in front of a small group has really boosted my skills. Yeah, that's really some really nice points there, and it's such a shame about, I guess you could even say, all the natural interruptions with the flooding and COVID-19 with that, but you know, I'm sure it will flourish once you are back into full active mode, as it were, and you can meet up again and stuff like that. Yeah. So no, that's a lovely example as well of sort of leading a group as well together.
I've thought of a couple of other things. Sorry, I love the sound of my own voice, but
no, you're fine.
I've thought of a couple of other things as well. Just what Dan and Catherine have been saying have just reminded me. The first thing was about sort of feeding back, like, you know, sort of whatever it is, 3 years on from when I first started going out on the Growing Confidence work parties with the Wildlife Trust, I've sort of, I mean, they're much better attended now than they were when I started going out on them. And I've just sort of taken it upon myself, without even really planning to or thinking about it, to keep an eye out for some of the younger participants who perhaps a little bit vulnerable, perhaps suffer a bit from stress problems, mental health problems that I've suffered from. the other thing in terms of opportunities that I didn't really think about when I was speaking earlier are things like speaking at the conference in Belfast, things like the sessions we ran at Country Fire Live, which I enjoyed running, even if the Country Fire Live sessions were a bit messed around by government ministers that have now gone. But I enjoyed doing them.
No, that's great. Yeah, that's there's more examples there, definitely, of leadership and also supporting other young people. Lauren, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, so I feel like I'm somewhere between the participation and the lead boxes. So I did a program, I think you advertised it on one of the emails about going a volunteering program with the Red Cross. And I did that. So it was about setting up social action projects in Glasgow, and sort of networking with organisations and setting up things. So that was definitely a leadership role that I took on that I wouldn't have been able to do without Our Bright Future and everything leading up to that. In terms of my actual projects, I feel like I'm sort of, halfway between the two. Definitely trying to take more of a leadership role on. But yeah, still working on that.
No, that's great, because we're discussing it a bit later and like how to sort of what we could ask for and what other support we can get. So it's all good. Keep it in your head. Keep it there. If I click. So I just wanted to go through some examples of young leaders. Now, you obviously know who this person is. I'd be very surprised if you didn't, because I feel like she was on the media. She's been on the media for the past couple of years now, really. So Greta Thunberg, and this is just examples of youth voice in different forms. That's what I try to do with these examples. So Greta Thunberg is definitely someone that I'd say activism, like a lot of her stuff is around activism and sort of the actions that she does is all about potentially disruption is too strong a word to use, but I wouldn't say they were like a social action. It was a social action project. So yeah, she went on strike back in 2018 to demand for more action around the climate crisis, and now she is just like a global movement across the world for Fridays for Future, etc. So it just started from one small act of just her to then this worldwide movement. And then, Maya Rose Craig, she is based in Bristol. You might have heard of her. She started a blog. She is a Twitcher. She likes bird watching. So that's where it all sort of came about. She started her own blog at 12 years old. And then from there, she has started a campaign around something called Black to Nature, which is her organisation, which encourages VME young people to access nature through her summer camps. So VME is visibly minority ethnic, and she also advocates for more inclusivity in the nature environment sector, and I'm sure Kath and the Wildlife Trust have very much heard of her. She goes to a lot of events and sort of talks about it quite a bit. But again, another way of sort of expressing her own opinion in her blog, and that developing into something a lot more. And her creating her own not-for-profit organisation and creating these summer camps to encourage more people to access nature is just a different example completely, again. So Yetunde, she is, I want to say she started Action for Conservation, but I might have got that wrong because she might have first of all been an I Will ambassador. But she has numerous blogs where she writes about youth voice, she writes about the disparities between communities, she writes about young people's sort of aspirations and really allowing young people to fulfill their potential, but also allowing them to dream and to believe that they could do it. And also young people being leaders in their communities and creating change. So she's another example, but hers is mainly blogs and writing. So she's not very active on social media, which is something that I want to address, because I know some people don't like using social media, but you can still have a voice by writing blogs, writing for different people. You don't have to be that active on. And I know there's a lot of with online safety, there's quite a lot of negativity on social media as well, which is why people don't want to be on there. But there's also a lot of positivity. So Bella Lack, she started her own blog again at 15. So blogs are quite popular. And she is an ambassador for lots of different organisations where she can have her voice heard in different boards. She advocates for sort of animals and the natural environment. And I believe last year she became a youth director for Reserva, which is the first youth funded and run nature reserve, which is, what have I put? I think it's Ecuador. Yes, Ecuador. So she's very active on social media, but again, started sort of writing, started getting her voice out there, and then joined different boards to have herself heard. So those are just like different examples. And I realise now that most of them are women, which you might be quite shocked about. But I am quite, in the environment space, sometimes there's a lack of women as well. So I was quite keen on giving examples of women. So now I know that we sort of discussed your experiences in our Bright Future projects. But the first question I wanted to ask is, what examples of youth voice have you guys experienced? This doesn't have to be our Bright Future related either. It could be something at school, it could be something in your community, and like positive experiences of youth voice. Would anyone have any additional examples that they can give to what they've already said, or do people feel like they've already covered it, which is completely fine?
I think that my direct experience has all been through Our Bright Future, really, through coming onto the youth forum and what I've done since then as a steering group member.
Yeah, no, that's completely fine. That's cool. Anyone else?
I've got an example of one, not that it's myself, but so someone called Beach Guardian Emily. So Beach Guardian is an organisation set up by Emily and her dad, and they do loads of beach cleans down here in Cornwall. But when she graduated from marine biology at the University of Plymouth, I think it was, she wore like this dress made out of Walker's crisp packets, to sort of make a protest to walkers that, a lot of what they're finding on the beaches is Walker's crisp packets. And through that and through lots of press and being on Sky News and that, she actually got walkers to set up their own like recycling scheme and stuff. So I think that's just a great example to me, and someone that I know of locally who has made like a national change. So yeah, she's great. She's such an inspiration.
That's really cool. I'm gonna Lauren, go for it if you.
Yeah, Jodie, that was a really good example. I definitely can't top that, but I've done quite a lot of work with various NHS trusts and services based around feeding back about what they can improve, or about what's it like as a patient. And through that, I've been on kind of panels, in a few panels, and spoken at conferences as well. So that's like a slightly different organisation, but the same kind of idea about getting youth voice heard.
No, that's really good, thank you. So the next question is, what supports youth voice? So thinking about the examples that you just said, and thinking about the examples that you were talking about in Our Bright Future, like, why were you able to give that voice? Like, what support did you have? It could be people, but it could be structures, it could be like opportunities. Like, why did we get to hear your voice? Like, what was put in place to make sure that we could hear your voice?
I'm muting myself now. I think just in terms of structures, the very fact that, and I'm sure Catherine would agree with me, the very fact that Our Bright Future was structured right from the start to have a number of young people informing the decision making at every level has allowed me to be where I am. Basically, allowed me to have whatever voice I've had in the program, although certainly there have also been a lot of very encouraging and supportive individuals as well.
No, that's great. Catherine, I saw you wanting to speak.
What I was going to say was, as well as people, I also think it's sometimes how, if you know you've got to go and talk with people about a topic, it's very nice when they sort of message you the questions before or tell you what the topic is, because then you can almost prepare yourself. Even though you don't know exactly what's going to be said, you can kind of give yourself an idea about what you want to say. Then it's easier sometimes to put that forward, I think.
That's probably feedback for this webinar as well, isn't it?
No,
yeah. It's okay to say. It's okay to say, because I'll do it for the next one. Honestly, that's cool. Because I'm just writing down your stuff now.
I also think having knowledge of what's going on and having being able to be signposted to different organisations is really important, because then you can kind of choose what route you want to go down. You have that kind of control over what you're doing, and that in turn kind of empowers you to be able to really participate and bring what you can to an area you feel passionate about. So I think having knowledge about what's out there and different signposts, different places is really important too.
Oh, anyone else? No, that's cool. So the next question is then, oh, sorry, go Lawrence. Sorry.
I mean, Lauren just mentioned signposting. We just talked about sort of representation in the environment sector, and as far as everything I've heard suggests that the reason for lack of representation of minority ethnic groups, for example, is basically because partly because of lack of role models, but largely because of lack of signposting, just lack of awareness.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Sort of the lack of access, lack of awareness, or lack of awareness of the access. I think you're right, and also the different assumptions and stereotypes we have around natural environments and green environments. Oh, sorry, there we go. So Dan has put, I've been on a few of the Extinction Rebellion marches in Shrewsbury, and like the Our Right Future project, it was great just having a huge collective of young people pushing for change. Quite a lot of organisers and even some of the Green Party reps that came to the youth group meetings to support myself and others involved to really make an impact. In terms of resources, like you said, with many of the youth voices, their impacts through blogs and social media have been huge, so utilising that can be more than enough. With the COVID restrictions, it is hard to push for youth activities, and likewise with green spaces. However, using social media and group calls, maybe even a youth takeover of social media on Our Right Future platforms, to really enable young people to reach out. Yeah, all of that is great. And you sort of go into the next question as well, so it's quite good. So the next question is, what resources would help you increase your voice, opinion, project activity? So Dan has given some ideas there in the chat. I'll just open it again. So Dan sort of talking about blogs, social media stuff, how we can, I guess, use maybe these group calls more as well to make sure that the forum are talking to each other, and potentially a takeover on Our Right Future social media. And I know the Our Right Future team love that. So if anyone wants to do that, I'll make sure I put it in again to the next update. And they could even have a theme to it. It could have a, I don't want to call it COVID-19 theme, but something along the lines of nature and isolation. But I know also Wildlife Trust and National Trust and other wildlife organisations are doing vitamin D. Vitamin D, that's right, isn't it, Kath? No, it's not. Vitamin, hashtag vitamin. Vitamin. What was it?
Vitamin N for nature.
Apologies. Vitamin N. I was probably thinking of sunlight with vitamin D, maybe. But yeah, vitamin N. So going out and getting your vitamin N. So it could be even joining that one or potentially having our own one. But I will put that out in the next update. So if anyone then wants to jump on that bandwagon and have a social media takeover, then yes, we can send through the account details. So what other? Oh, sorry.
I was just going to add to that. Sorry, Lydia.
Go for it.
If anybody felt inspired and wanted to write a blog or do a vlog, then that would be great too. Don't feel that the only options are social media takeovers.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and if you do blogs, there's quite high likelihood that they'll be shared by our Bright Future projects as well. So then that would cover more readership than sometimes in social media. So off that question, what other resources would help you increase your youth voice opinion, project, activity, or if there's something that you really want to do and you're just like, oh, I'm really not sure how to do it or how our Bright Future can support me, what do you think would be good to share? And I can share these in updates, I could share these in webinars.
I think a key one would be access to training or courses to develop skills, whether that be leadership or kind of anything that people want to develop. I think that's a really key one because it gives you the confidence to be able to go on and take those roles on, and it's also something tangible that you can take away and use, and also feedback into the project as well with your new skills.
Yeah, that's great, thank you. Anyone else?
I can go next. Yeah, for me, it's probably more about like confidence to sort of speak out there, which is why I think like communicating more and like having these webinars with other people in the youth forum is really great for me and really encouraging and makes me want to. I think when you send emails, Lydia, and you mention all the opportunities and stuff, that's definitely the way that I've like gone out there and increased like my youth voice, inspire them opportunities. So I definitely say yeah, I love when you send them out in an email. But yeah, it is just more about, I do have the support, and my team are great, but definitely like Lauren said as well with training, so I'm coming to the end of my apprenticeship at the end of June, and I've been looking for things like project management or leadership or something to do with activism, because I don't really know a lot about that. So just having that access to training, and yeah, some of it even being online as well, because I'm obviously down here in Cornwall. Yeah, so that anything like that would really be great for me and beneficial.
Yeah, thank you for that. No, that all makes sense. It's going to be a little bit harder during COVID-19, but I'm sure we can find some online stuff as well and keep doing webinars too, and I might even try and do guest speakers in webinars. Whoa, it could go wrong, but it could be good. So we'll see how that goes. Does anyone else have any other points? Oh, okay, cool. Does anyone else have anything? Nope.
You've muted yourself, Lydia.
Sorry. Sorry, thank you, Lawrence. So the last one is, I'm guessing it sort of overlaps a little bit into some of the stuff that you've already said, but what could our Bright Future do? The current restrictions to increase youth voice and the value of nature, green spaces, sustainability. So this question wasn't just towards me and the Our Bright Future team and what we can do to help you. It was actually also to do with your voice and how you could help other young people during the time of restrictions. Is there anything that you want to talk about online, or is there anything that you want to create to then be sent out on, say, social media or newsletters that could not only recognise your voice but also show how the restrictions, sort of like what I was saying earlier with the hearing birdsong and more people using their parks, and potentially less emissions being put into the atmosphere. Maybe I just let you mull over that. Or does anyone have anything that they want to say now? Because it's something to think about, potentially develop in the long term, not something that you can be like, yes, I have this amazing idea right now, which is really big.
There's one thing I can think of off the top of my head, which is that it would only really be relevant to anyone who's sort of got close enough access to countryside or has got a sort of a sizable garden or something. But I've been watching, you know, various birds and insects, various flowers, a bit of phenology effectively. I suppose that one thing, you know, Our Bright Future as a program, we as individuals or as an individual could do is just sort of suggest things to look out for.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great shout. Yeah. Oh, go for it.
What I was going to say is, on Twitter, a guy called Alex Horn, what he's done is he's taken like the Taskmaster idea of sort of things to do within COVID-19, and I was thinking maybe you could almost set like a weekly task for like people in Our Bright Future to try and engage with, like send in or something.
Would the weekly task be suggested by you foreign representative, do you think?
I mean, it could be. I mean, or maybe you could give them a starting point, just give an example and things like that, and see what they sort of come up with for the following weeks or whatever.
We could do your flower pot newspaper, making the flower pots out of newspaper, Catherine. We could have you doing it on there to put it for an example, and then people can try it out.
Don't know how successful it will be, but we can try.
Yeah, we could have people posting all their photos of their flower pots. Yeah, I will put that down. It could be a suggestion potentially on the next update. I could write that out and say if people have examples they want to send in, I could always write a couple, and then if people wanted to vote or if people wanted to add their own weekly task, we could do it that way. Does that sound good, Catherine? Yeah?
Yeah, I really like that idea. I like the idea of having a task to do. I think that especially where every day kind of merges into one, I think it's really important to keep a bit of a routine and a bit of something to hold, not accountable, but just something to have a bit of structure. And something that came to mind for myself is there's a lot of free time, and things like sort of gardening could be a great hobby for people to take up. Maybe there could be something about growing a plant a week, or kind of looking after a plant. It's something that I'd like to do, considering we've got more time. It doesn't need a lot of space either. But I also know the National Lottery Community Fund are also thinking about doing similar things, so focusing on projects who are who are adapting quite well in their current situation, whether that be kind of mental health focused or kind of other issues like that. So, but I think there's definitely a space for Our Bright Future.
Yeah, cool. That sounds good. Apologies if you can hear screaming in the background. The children next door are playing on their trampoline. I don't know if you can hear it or not, so sorry about that. That's okay then. So, does anyone else have anything to add? But I think there's some great examples there for sure.
Not anything to add. I've just spotted Dan's.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, from Lawrence. Sorry, I can't read. Just agreeing with the gardening idea.
Yeah, and like you said, even if you don't have a big garden, some people might have balconies, some people might have just a window box, or even houseplants. I have quite a few houseplants. So let's see if I can, there we go. So this was the point where I wanted to say, if anyone has like any discussion question, it doesn't have to be on Youth Voice, it can be on the topic. But if anyone wanted to sort of give a discussion question now, or ask me a question, or ask a question, or ask each other a question, then now is the time to do so. Anyone have anything at all? Okay, I think we're good. I'm hoping that means that you've understood everything that I've been saying.